Welcome back, and thank you for joining us again today as we move forward with our sessions in how we're addressing the struggles, the challenges of being a man and bringing about transformation to our ideology, our nurturing, and our thoughts about what it really means to be a man. I know I have never said it on any other calls, but I'm going to be 49. By the time you see this, I might be 49, but I'd be in that range. And I've spent a huge part of my life growing up in Nigeria. I've had the privilege of traveling to a few countries, schooling in a few countries, but I'm a Nigerian, through and through, thoroughbred Nigerian. Today, we want to talk about the theme for today is the father's wounds, hidden pain, and breaking those cycles. And I'm not approaching this purely from a spiritual perspective, but we do have our spiritual launch board, Psalm 51 and verse 6. I'm also going to start the session with a question. And I want you to resist the urge to answer it quickly. Don't spring into response. What did your father teach you about being a man? Not what he said, what he showed you. What did he show you about handling money? About how to treat a woman? About how to respond when you're scared? About what to do with pain, disappointment, tragedy? What did your father show you that became your blueprint? These are the questions. And whether your father was present or absent, engaged or disengaged, healthy or broken, his influence is woven deeply into the way you show up today. And we have to admit that. We have been acculturized, oriented by the man that was primarily above us. And one of the most consistent predicators of male incarceration is an absence of emotionally unavailable fathers. I know I had tossed this number that 10.8 million men currently are incarcerated globally. We're looking at a generational crisis of broken formation that nobody wants to name. Boys who grow up without present, emotionally engaged fathers are statistically more likely to struggle with identity, emotional regulation. They're more likely to engage in destructive relational patterns, to repeat them and to repeat those cycles of financial instability, experience higher rates of anger, substance use and abuse, and of course also deal with some form of depression. This is not limited to absent fathers. Some of the most deeply wounded men in the world grew up with their fathers, and their fathers were physically present or maybe emotionally absent. Men who provide financially but never said, "I'm proud of you." They never said, "I love you." They never said it to you, even especially when you made mistakes and you lost, you failed. Men who were in the house but never in the room. The wound is not always from a man who left. Sometimes it's a man who's there but not really there. Sometimes the deepest wounds is from a man who stayed and perpetrated that assault or trauma on you consistently and repeatedly over a period of time. They were there, but they were never really there. David, in the Bible himself, he understood this. Psalm 27:10. Though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. David carried father wounds. His own father, Jesse, overlooked him left him in the backside of nowhere in the field. Even when the prophet came, the prophet had to nudge him. And then when he came, God said, "This is the one, anoint him." Here is what history, is not telling us, so to speak, about destiny. Ezekiel 18, "The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father." Such a powerful statement. That is a spiritual declaration of generational possibility. The cycle can stop, but only with a man who is willing to face it. At Adulam, we sit in a circle and map the father's story. Where did your father miss it? Where did he come from? What was modeled for him, and he's modeling to you? What did he pass on to you? And most importantly, what are you passing on right now to the next generation? Because this cycle cannot continue. We must break it. There are 5 inner fractures that I want to quickly talk about, and they are fractures that we commonly see with men. Number 1 is the father wound, the blueprint of broken, absent manhood that shapes identity. Number 2, that financial fear, the panic that drives men to make destructive decisions and hide financial strain, hide it from their families. The third one, I don't know whether this is the biggest one, is that sexual integrity, that private battle many of us are carrying alone in shame, that disconnects us from our wives, our children, and also disconnects us from our spiritual authority, our Father. The fourth one, very common, the anger pattern, that misdirected energy, that misdirected pain, that misdirected trauma that becomes rage, control, cold silence, often inherited, but rarely examined. And Adulam, we look at all of these. And the fifth one, the emotional suppression. The decades of long habit of swallowing our feelings, of keeping them bottled on the inside, that eventually surfaces as physical disease. Those psychosomatic diseases. It also shows up as broken relationships or sudden collapse. The guy just breaks down. One day, like a machine, he just shuts off, And these things will fracture you. They stay private. A man who does not deal with these fractures does not escape them. You can't escape them. You see, there's a thing I learned from NLP. It says the mind and the body are part of the same system. So whatever is in your mind, the system, the body, the mind and the body are part of the same system. Whatever is in the mind, the body will experience. Whatever is in the body, the mind will experience. So no matter how much you evade, you dodge, you go under, at some point you have to go through. Those men, they export those things to their wives, export them to their children, and more dangerously, we're exporting them to the next generation. Not right. Here is the question we ask in Adulam. No one wants to sit down and address this, but we ask that question. What will break in your family if you do not change? Not what might happen. What will happen if you don't change? This question is it's not meant to condemn you. It's meant to wake you up. It's meant to bring you to attention about what's budding and will not implode, but explode. And because we haven't asked ourselves these questions, we haven't created infrastructure of how to address them intelligently, psychologically, physiologically, and most importantly, spiritually. So I need you to answer that question very honestly. The man who answers it honestly is the man who becomes something different. He becomes the man who breaks the cycle. The man who decides this pattern ends with me, no further. And I'm going to give you 5 action points. But before I go into it, I need you to just remind yourself, this far and no further. This far and no further. The action points are these. Number 1, the father story timeline. Draw a simple line. On the left, put your father's name and 3 things that he modeled or that you learned from him. On the right, 3 ways those things appear in your life today. On the left, his name plus the 3 things he modeled. On the right, how those things are showing up in your life today. This is not so that you can blame your dad. This is so that you become aware of what you are replicating unconsciously. Number 2, name one fracture. From the 5 father wounds, financial, sexual, anger, emotional, those things we spoke about, name one with the most grip on your life right now. Name it. Begins to reduce his power. Identifying it begins to reduce his power over you. Then number 3, the declaration. I want you to write and say aloud. Write and say it loud. I am not my father's worst pattern. I am my family's new beginning. I am not my father's worst pattern. I am my family's new beginning. The cycle ends with me and the new begins with me. I want you to write it down and repeat those things to yourself as many times as possible. Let it get it pumping, get you focused. Number 4, get accountability. Find one man with whom you can share honestly the specific fracture you picked amongst the 5. Not so that that man fixes it, and not so that they fix it immediately as well. Just to say it out loud. Confession in community is one of the most powerful tools that are underused. The Bible prescribes it, but we don't carry it on into social well-being. Confess your sins to one another, not so that you're castigated or judged, but so that you break free from the clutches of it, because those things replicate, they foster in quiet and in secrecy. And you want to be able to break out of that. And number 5, I want you to write a letter to your father, whether he's alive or not. Not to send it, not to mail it, but so that you heal. Write what you needed that you didn't get. Write what you forgave him for. Write what you are choosing to do differently. That letter should contain those things. Thank you for allowing us to go through this session together. It's a bit of a long one, it's almost 13 minutes, but I think it's also loaded with powerful nuggets that we can begin to apply immediately and begin to break this cycle and not allow this generational decay to continue. You owe it to yourself and to your family to be a whole man, not an imprint of the mistakes that your father made. And you owe it to your son to be able to give him the right image. I want to leave you with this Yoruba saying, and I hope that they're able to give you the English version somewhere in the subtitles. It says, Iyani wura babani jigi. The man is a reflection. The man is a reflection. I want you to reflect to the next generation and even to yourself the right image. And God help you as you endeavor and you go further in this journey of transformation.